Section 9 of Drake by Alfred Noyes. This recording is in the public domain. Recording by Cynthia Moyer. Book 5. With the fruit of Aladdin's garden clustering thick in her hold, with rubies awash in her scuppers, and her bilge ablaze with gold, a world in arms behind her to sever her heart from home, the Golden Hind drove onward over the glittering foam. If we go as we came by the southward, we meet with the fleets of Spain. 'Tis 1,000 to 1 against us, we'll turn to the west again. We have captured a China pilot, his charts and his golden keys. We'll sail to the Golden Gateway, over the golden seas. Over the immeasurable molten gold, wrapped in a golden haze, onward they drew, and now they saw the tiny purple quay grow larger and darker and brighten into brown across the swelling sparkle of the waves. Brown on the quay, a train of tethered mules munched at the nose-bags, while a Spaniard drowsed, on guard beside what seemed at first a heap of fish, then slowly turned to silver bars, up-piled and glistering in the enchanted sun. Nor did that sentry wake as, like a dream, the Golden Hind divided the soft sleep of warm green lapping water, sidled up, sank sail, and moored beside the quay, but Drake, lightly leaping ashore and stealing nigh, picked up the Spaniard's long gay ribboned gun close to his ear. At once, without a sound, the watchman opened his dark eyes and stared, as at strange men who suddenly had come, borne by some magic carpet, from the stars. Then, with a courtly bow, his right hand thrust within the lace embroideries of his breast. Politely Drake, with pained apologies for this disturbance of a cavalier napping on guard, straightway resolved to make complete amends by now relieving him of these, which doubtless troubled his repose, these anxious bars of silver. With that word 2 seamen leaped ashore and, gathering up the bars in a stout old patch of tawny sail, slung them aboard. No sooner this was done, than out o' the valley, like a foolish jest out of the mouth of some great John a Dreams, in soft procession of buffoonery, a woolly train of llamas proudly came stepping by 2 and 2 along the quay, laden with pack on pack of silver bars, and driven by a Spaniard. His amaze the seamen greeted with profuser thanks for his most punctual thought and opportune courtesy. None the less they must avouch it pained them much to see a cavalier turned carrier, and at once they must insist on easing him of that too sordid care. Then out from Tarapaca once again they sailed, their hold a glimmering mine of wealth, towards Arica and Lima, where they deemed the prize of prizes waited unaware. For every year a gorgeous galleon sailed with all the harvest of Potosi's mines, and precious stones from dead kings' diadems, Aztecs and Incas' gem-encrusted crowns, pearls from the glimmering temples of the moon, rich opals with their milky rainbow clouds, white diamonds from the temples of the sun, carbuncles flaming scarlet, amethysts, rubies and sapphires. These to Spain she brought to glut her priestly coffers, now Not far ahead they deemed she lay upon that coast, crammed with the lustrous Indies, wrung with threat and torture from the naked Indian slaves. To him that spied her topsails first, a prize Drake offered of the wondrous chain he wore; and every seaman, every ship boy watched, not only for the prize, but for their friends, if haply these had weathered through the storm. Nor did they know their friends had homeward turned, bearing to England and to England's Queen and his heart's queen the tale that Drake was dead. Northward they cruised along a warm wild coast That like a most luxurious goddess drowsed, Supine to heaven, her arms behind her head, One knee upthrust to make a mountain peak, Her rosy breasts upheaving their soft snow In distant Andes, and her naked side, With one rich curve, for 100 leagues Bathed by the creaming foam; her heavy hair Fraught with the perfume of 1,000 forests Tossed round about her beauty; and her mouth, A scarlet mystery of distant flower Upturned to take the kisses of the sun. But like a troop of boys let loose from school, The adventurers went by startling the stillness Of that voluptuous dream encumbered shore With echoing shouts of laughter and alien song. But as they came to Arica, from afar They heard the clash of bells upon the breeze, And knew that Rumour with her 1,000 wings Had rushed before them; horsemen in the night Had galloped through the white coast villages And spread the dreadful cry El Draque abroad; And when the gay adventurers drew nigh They found the quays deserted and the ships all flown, Except one little fishing boat, wherein an old man like a tortoise moved, A wrinkled head above the rusty net His crawling hands repaired. He seemed to dwell Outside the world of war and peace, outside Everything save his daily task, and cared No whit who else might win or lose; for all The pilot asked of him, without demur He answered, scarcely looking from his work. A galleon laden with 800 bars Of silver not 3 hours ago had flown Northward, he muttered. Ere the words were out The will of Drake thrilled through the Golden Hynde Like one sharp trumpet call; and ere they knew What power impelled them, crowding on all sail, Northward they surged, and roaring down the wind At Chiuli, port of Arequipa, saw The chase at anchor. Wondering they came, With all the gunners waiting at their guns, Bare armed and silent; nearer, nearer yet, Close to the enemy; but no sight or sound Of living creature stirred upon her decks. Only a great grey cat lay in the sun Upon a warm smooth cannon butt; a chill Ran through the veins of even the boldest there At that too peaceful silence. Cautiously Drake neared her in his pinnace; cautiously, Cutlass in hand, up that mysterious hull He clomb, and wondered, as he climbed, to breathe The friendly smell o' the pitch and hear the waves With their incessant old familiar sound Crackling and slapping against her windward flank. A ship of dreams was that; for when they reached The silent deck they saw no crouching forms, They heard no sound of life; only the hot Creak of the cordage whispered in the sun. The cat stood up and yawned and slunk away, slowly, with furtive glances. The great hold was empty and the rich cabin stripped and bare. Suddenly one of the seamen with a cry pointed where, close inshore, a little boat stole towards the town, and with a louder cry Drake bade his men aboard the Golden Hind. Scarce had they pulled 200 yards away when, with a roar that seemed to buffet the heavens and rip the heart of the sea out, one red flame, blackened with fragments, the great galleon burst asunder. All the startled waves were strewn with wreckage, and Drake laughed. "My lads, we have diced with death to day and won. My merry lads! It seems that Spain is bolting with the stakes. Now, if I have to stretch the skies for sails and summon the blasts of God up from the south to fill my canvas, I will overhaul those dusky devils with the treasure ship that holds our hard-earned booty. Pull hard all, hard for the Golden Hind." And so they came, at dead of night, on Callao de Lima. They saw the harbour lights across the waves, glittering, and the shadowy hulks of ships gathered together like a flock of sheep within the port. With shouts and clink of chains a shadowy ship was entering from the north, and like the shadow of that shadow slipped the Golden Hind beside her through the gloom. And side by side they anchored in the port amidst the shipping. Over the dark tide a small boat from the customs house drew near. A sleepy, yawning, gold-laced officer boarded the Golden Hind, and, with a cry, stumbling against a cannon butt, he saw the bare-armed British seamen in the gloom, all waiting by their guns. Wildly he plunged over the side and urged his boat away, crying "El Draque! El Draque!" At that dread word the darkness filled with clamour, and the ships, cutting their cables, drifted here and there in mad attempts to seek the open sea. Wild lights burnt hither and thither, and all the port, one furnace of confusion, heaved and seethed in terror, for each shadow of the night, nay, the great night itself, was all El Draque. The dragon's wings were spread from quay to quay. The very lights that burnt from mast to mast and flared across the tide kindled his breath to fire, while here and there a British pinnace slipped softly through the roaring gloom and glare, ransacking ship by ship, for each one thought a fleet had come upon them. Each gave up the struggle as each was boarded, while elsewhere, cannon to cannon, friends bombarded friends. Yet not 1 ounce of treasure in Callao they found, for 14 days before they came, that greatest treasure ship of Spain, with all the gorgeous harvest of that year, had sailed for Panama, her ballast silver bars, her cargo rubies, emeralds, and gold. Out through the clamour and the darkness, out to the harbour mouth the Golden Hind, steered by the iron soul of Drake, returned. And where the way was blocked, her cannon clove a crimson highway to the midnight sea. Then northward, northward, o'er the jewelled main, under the white moon like a storm they drove in quest of the Cacafuego. 14 days her start was, and at dawn the fair wind sank, and chafing lay the Golden Hind becalmed. While on the hills the Viceroy of Peru, marched down from Lima with 2,000 men, and sent out 4 huge ships of war to sink or capture the fierce dragon. Loud laughed Drake to see them creeping nigh, urged with great oars, then suddenly pause, for none would be the first to close with him. And ere they had steeled their hearts to battle, a fair breeze broke out anew, and northward sped the little Golden Hind in quest of the lordliest treasure ship of Spain. Behind her lay a world in arms, for now wrath and confusion clamoured for revenge from sea to sea. Spain claimed the pirate's head from England and awaited his return with all her tortures, and where'er he passed he sowed the dragon's teeth, and everywhere Cadmean broods of armed men arose and followed on his fiery trail. Men toiled at Lima to fit out a fleet Grim enough to destroy him. All night long The flare went up from cities on the coast, Where men, like naked devils, toiled to cast Cannon that might have overwhelmed the powers Of Michael when he drave that hideous rout Through livid chaos to the black abyss. Small hope, indeed, there seemed of safe return. But northward sped the little Golden Hind, The world watched midget ship of 18 guns, Undaunted; and upon the second dawn Sighted a galleon, not indeed the chase, Yet worth a pause; for out of her they took, Embossed with emeralds large as pigeons' eggs, A golden crucifix with 80 pounds In weight of gold; the rest they left behind; And onward, onward to the north they flew, A score of golden miles, a score of green, 100 miles, 800 miles of foam, Rainbows and fire, ransacking as they went Ship after ship for news o' the chase and gold, Learning from every capture that they drew Nearer and nearer. At Truxillo, dim and dreaming city, Adrowse with purple flowers, she had paused, ay, paused to take a freight of gold. At Paita she had passed 2 days in front, Only 2 days, 2 days ahead, nay, one. At Quito, close inshore, a youthful page, Bright eyed, ran up the rigging and cried "A sail! A sail! The Cacafuego and the chain is mine!" And by the strange cut of her sails, Whereof they had been told in Callao, They knew her. Heavily laden with her gems, Lazily drifting with her golden fruitage, Over the magic seas they saw her hull Loom as they onward drew; but Drake, for fear The prey might take alarm and run ashore, Trailed wine skins, filled with water, over the side To hold his ship back till the darkness fell. And with the night the off shore wind arose. At last the sun sank down, the rosy light Faded from Andes' peaked and bosomed snow. The night wind rose, the wine skins were uphauled, And, like a hound unleashed, the Golden Hind Leapt forward through the gloom. A cable's length divided them. The Cacafuego heard a rough voice in the darkness bidding her Heave to. She held her course. Drake gave the word. A broadside shattered the night, and over her side Her mainyard clattered like a broken wing. On to her decks the British sea dogs swarmed, Cutlass in hand. That fight was at an end. The ship was cleared, a prize crew placed aboard. Then both ships turned their heads to the open sea. At dawn, being out of sight of land, they 'gan Examine the great prize. None ever knew, Save Drake and Gloriana, what wild wealth They had captured there. Thus much at least was known: An hundredweight of gold and 20 tons Of silver bullion, 13 chests of coins, Nuggets of gold unnumbered, countless pearls, Diamonds, emeralds; but the worth of these Was past all reckoning. In the crimson dawn, Ringed with the lonely pomp of sea and sky, The naked footed seamen bathed knee deep In gold, and gathered up Aladdin's fruit, All coloured gems, and tossed them in the sun. The hold like one great elfin orchard gleamed With dusky globes and tawny glories piled, Hesperian apples, heap on mellow heap, Rich with the hues of sunset, rich and ripe And ready for the enchanted cider press. An emperor's ransom in each burning orb, A kingdom's purchase in each clustered bough, The freedom of all slaves in every chain. End of Book 5.